So I was talking to a friend of mine today about MineHub. And by the way, I actually just added to my position. I just bought more MineHub shares at 50 cents US dollars. Okay, 50 cents US. But yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine about that I bought MineHub Technologies, that MineHub Technologies is already a very considerable position, both in my personal and in my family's portfolio. So I was talking about that with him, and it's quite funny because he pretty much thinks I'm crazy because in his view, I'm making a terrible deal. Terrible deal because in his view, MineHub is simply too expensive. Now, why does he think that way? Well, because he's pretty much looking at MineHub's current numbers. And I think that's a completely wrong way of looking to MineHub. Okay, so he's looking at MineHub's current market cap, which stands at around 70 million Canadian, while the company posted 1.4 million Canadian over the last 12 months. So he's looking at these numbers, and well, he saw that MineHub is pretty much trading at 50 times sales, right? And of course, that's an extreme multiple. If you look at MineHub this way, of course you think that MineHub is extremely expensive, right? I mean, we are talking about a multiple of 50 times sales. That's not a low multiple. And he also said to me that he didn't understand my decision, especially because I usually bring here on my channel stocks that are trading at much cheaper multiples, right? For example, I bought Assertio Holdings at a negative enterprise value. That was an excellent deal. I also bought Enjoei, which is a Brazilian stock, and I talked about it in this video here. But I also bought Enjoei at a pretty much negative enterprise value. Adcore, ticker ADCO, listed on the TSX Venture. Adcore was another stock that I bought. I don't think I bought it at a negative enterprise value, but I bought Adcore at like 0.1 times enterprise value to sales. In any case, I usually bring cheap companies, very cheap companies like these, right? However, I'm buying MineHub, which, as I already mentioned, is trading at 50 times revenue. So yeah, if you think about MineHub this way, of course, MineHub is an extremely expensive stock. I agree on that. However, as I also said, I think that looking at MineHub this way is a mistake. Because you see, MineHub is still a very early stage business. You need to keep that in mind. You need to have that in mind. You need to consider, you need to accept that you are investing in venture capital. That's what MineHub is, right? It's a microcap, almost a pre-revenue company. So if you think about MineHub looking at its current revenue, of course, you will throw this company in the garbage, right? Because it will seem to you like an extremely expensive stock. However, let's always remember that the market moves based on expectations. Many investors forget about that. Most investors actually think that the market moves based on the current numbers. But no, the market moves on expectations, on what he thinks will happen tomorrow. And that's how we should think about MineHub. We shouldn't think about MineHub's valuation considering its current revenue. Instead, we should think about its future potential revenue. Now, what's MineHub's future potential revenue, right? That's the question now. Well, if you search in their investor presentation, you'll see a slide that shows their total addressable market. And there they show that this business could generate, once it becomes fully mature, so to speak, but there they show that MineHub could generate more than $1 billion in revenue. Okay? So, you were paying $50 million today for a business that could ultimately generate $1 billion. Now, if they can deliver that, if they can generate $1 billion in revenue and trade at 10 times revenue or 5 times revenue, okay, let's use 5 to be more conservative. But if that happens, MineHub would be a $5 billion company. So this investment would be a 100x. Oh, but you're being too optimistic. Well, I know. So that's why we will now be a little more conservative. Okay? So, okay, in a perfect world, MineHub could generate over $1 billion in revenue. That's true. However, let's use lower numbers. So, do you think MineHub could deliver $30 million in revenue? I think that could happen. And here, let's remember that some of the biggest commodity companies in the world are already using MineHub software. Okay? Let's also remember that in my last interview with Andrea, she told us that they have more than 1,000 potential customers on their sales pipeline. More than 1,000. And I'm not inventing that, okay? You can watch, you can hear her saying that in this link here, in this interview. So yeah, they have dozens, hundreds of names testing their platform. In their last investor presentation also, they show that now they have 240 companies already in their platform, right? Already in their ecosystem. So it doesn't matter which number you use, 240 or 1,000, but let's project some things here. So let's use 240 potential paying customers, okay? So would you say MineHub could convert eventually, right, 20% of these names into paying clients? Well, I certainly believe that. But in this case, we would already be talking about 50 new clients. And let's remember here that MineHub has only about 12, 13 paying customers, according to the last time I spoke with Andrea. So if they can convert 20% of the companies that are testing their ecosystem, man, the game would change completely. So no, I don't think it is unlikely for MineHub to convert 20, 30% of their testing customers, right? Of their demo customers. I think that could happen. So you see, you need to think about MineHub with that in mind. Thinking about what they could eventually generate, what they could eventually deliver. And I don't think I'm being aggressive, right? But you see, that's my point, I won't talk too much. That's my point. I don't think MineHub is expensive. I bought MineHub at a market cap of 50 million US. I don't think that was a bad deal, especially considering that it would take about $20-30 million to build a similar platform, right? So you were pretty much paying only 2-3 times the cost of building a new platform. However, you have all these giant names in the platform already. So that is worth something, right? So now to build a similar platform with the names that are already on it, I think it would cost much more than 20-30 million, right? Because you need to convince these giant companies such as BHP, Codelco. Codelco is already a MineHub's paying client. Codelco, the biggest copper miner in the world. Okay, so they are using MineHub's platform to manage 50% of their operations. So that tells us a lot about the quality of MineHub's product. In any case, too much mumbo jumbo in this video, right? But in any case, no, I don't think that MineHub is expensive. I don't think looking at MineHub's current revenue, current numbers, is the right way of thinking about whether this stock is cheap or expensive. Instead, we need to think about what MineHub could eventually deliver in the future. And if he thinks that I'm crazy for investing in MineHub at the current levels, well, I think that any of you who thinks that MineHub will not scale, will continue to post only 1.5 million in revenue over the next few years, I think that all people who think this way are crazy, right? So that's it for today. We need to think about MineHub's valuation, thinking about the future. Don't think about it looking at the current numbers. That's my message.